Hello everyone and welcome to our 2024 update, and thank you for joining us today. Most of you know me, but for those who don't, my name is Peter Mellor and I'm the Manager of Partnerships and Growth for SuperMate. As usual, our Product Design Manager Reese Hopper will be providing a demonstration, and as a special end-of-year treat, we'll also be joined by our Chief Technology Officer Andy Forbes. Once again, our General Manager Quality and Technical Services, Craig Stone, will be joining us as well. Craig will provide an update on all things compliance related. Andy will provide an update on what we've achieved in SuperMate this year and plans for 2025. And Reese will provide a demonstration on the interactive reports available in SuperMate, how to use Customisable Letters to automate regular client communications, as well as how to customise report suites. To start us off, I'll hand over to Craig. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks very much, Pete. Hello, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us today. We've got a few things that we can go through today and cover off from a compliance aspect. So let's get into it. If you remember last time, there was quite a bit to catch up on, probably because I was away for the previous two sessions. But this time, not much has happened in the last 4 weeks. So in the lead up to Christmas, hoping for a little bit of a cruisy end to the year. Just a quick update on what's happening or not happening for Division 296. We're still waiting approval in the Senate. I think it's been there for just over 4 weeks. And the government really needs some support from other parliamentarians, the senators in the Greens and the crossbench. So the superannuation industry is doing a fair bit of lobbying. I know Peter Burgess from the SMSF Association has spent a fair bit of time in Canberra lately, and so hopefully that will help with the discussions with those other senators and make sure that the rules that they're proposing will be amended before going into law. There's still issues around the thresholds that aren't being indexed or no proposal for indexation, and effective taxing of unrealised gains, and that's causing a bit of drama actually in the media. In particular, the actuaries that have come out to provide some details around who might be affected, as well as some CEOs of small business and prime production associations are coming out with real life scenarios and how devastating that will be with third, fourth, fifth generation farming families having to sell some of their farm to pay for a tax on a gain that's never been eventuated and may never be if they're handing on the family farm to the next generation as well. The only other thing that's popped up in the last couple of weeks is Treasurer Jim Chalmers has announced a few things to the industry, and so I thought I'd just quickly go through that, as well as cover off on a few things from the ATO that they released in the last couple of days, of course, just after our slides have been pulled together. But the Treasurer announced some retirement reforms and calling this a pivotal moment for super, because he's listing off a few things around what's likely to happen and all projected over the next couple of decades, more than 2.5 million people retiring. So that'll be good news for people in the industry, and SuperMate and Super Concepts is definitely ready for that and gearing up for that over the next few years in preparation. In the next 40 or so years, drawdowns from superannuation in lump sum and pension looking to almost double or just over double, from 2.4% of GDP to over 5.6. So that's a huge amount of advice required, and software systems like SuperMate will be there to support that during that time. The main thing that Jim Chalmers was releasing, though, was a new package of reforms to help retirees, the end clients, make their superannuation go further. So I listed out 4 things. I'll put them up on the screen. But the ideas behind it, enhanced independent guidance. The documentation that was released talked about money smart website and releasing some new resources there in regards to retirees having access to information that's independent and reliable to help them with their retirement and superannuation decision making. And also ASIC is going to be launching a new consumer education campaign to raise awareness around retirement and what retirees need to think about. So that's that first enhanced independent guidance. Better retirement products. I was interested in this, and maybe other members of the webinar are also interested in this one. They're looking to improve innovative income stream regulations and support more innovation in retirement products. And they're looking as well to have those regulations commencing from 1 July 2026, which is going to be very interesting if Division 296 also comes into effect on that date. They are promising to have some draft regulations and consultations of that, but if it follows the Division 296, it may well be ignored as it has been in the past. The best practice principles that were announced is in regards to the superannuation industry designing this modern, high-quality income products that support Australians' financial security in retirement. So watch this space. There is some pre-Christmas announcements expected, and then also some consultation to begin in the new year. The other comments that I just wanted to mention was that these are in conjunction to be implemented with the Delivering Better Financial Outcomes legislation that has been bubbling along in the last 12 to 18 months. So again, trying to just make sure that we keep on top of all of that in the next couple of months. The last thing that I just wanted to mention was the ATO data that was released this week. I'd actually pulled together some slides which talk about the entry and exits, or setup and wind-ups. And no sooner had I published these, the ATO then brought out the September figures, of course. So I've got the September figures, or the June figures up on the screen, but September figures I've got as of last night. So the September quarter figures going from new setups of 8,600, and the September quarter is now just under 10,300 new setups, and exits or wind-ups of a small 165. Now those figures are adjusted as new information comes to hand, but it does back up what the rest of the report says, that the SMSF sector is now just over $1 trillion. So well worth celebrating as members of the SMSF industry. The last thing is that I was reading this morning about the Division 296. It's not even listed for debate in the Senate listing for this week, and it probably won't get looked at because it's considered a controversial bill, so they can't just tack it onto something else. So that's my update. I'd like to hand back to Peter, but happy to answer any questions towards the end. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Craig. Very informative as always. I'd now like to welcome Andy Forbes for his CTO update. Thanks, Andy.
Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining with us today. It's been another huge year for SuperMate. So before we head into the holiday season, I thought it'd be good to do a quick recap on what we've added this year. Now, just a quick note that if some of these features that I run through you haven't seen yet, one or two are pending final feedback before being turned on for all. All right, let's get into it. So first off, Verify Bank. This is an anti-fraud feature. Requires 2 sets of eyes to be able to change a bank account that is linked to the annual return or SuperStream payments. It is an optional thing, but it is a good measure of preventing, getting into some trouble with some fraud or movement of money of a nefarious nature. All right, so next, Access integration. You can now use Access for your fund document needs via their portal, which is great. We've introduced electronic lodgements, payee, pension and lump sum via SBR, and the same thing for BAS and IAS. We also introduced Client View, and this is where advisors and clients can view key information. And this is, for those of you on SuperMate Classic, it's a replacement to our old View Super platform. And linked to this is Client Queries, properly modeling the client interaction piece to assist with client engagement and power earlier lodgement. Opening Macquarie cash accounts directly from SuperMate, and also having the data feed set up automatically for you. ASF audit integration makes getting your funds to audit with ASF much easier, and have the report and qualifications sent back. Transaction notes, so that you can make notes on unreconciled transactions for anyone else working on the fund, or just to remind yourself that the paperwork is coming and that you don't need to follow the client up. Workflow, so many enhancements in workflow, bringing in teams and roles, more logic for keeping track of or automating your processes. A huge amount of work has gone into this and so much more to come. Workflow will be a key competitive advantage for your firm on SuperMate. SuperStream quality of life improvements. SuperStream is tricky, and we want to make it as easy as possible to manage and stay on top of. Fund health checks to help you stay on top of the data and processing health of your funds. This encourages your team to be proactive on fund information and in turn lodge faster. We also completed open banking. However, there were some industry and regulation issues that have meant we've kept this one pretty quiet for now. There's also been enhancements to property processing, Data Hero, document management, stapled securities, and also can't forget the huge annual compliance release that we do every year. And in this year, it included the new trust income schedule. These are only some of the big ticket items, but there have been many more smaller improvements. It's been a really huge year for us. We've done a lot of development and a lot of innovation. Finally, before wrap up, what's coming in 2025? More workflow and client engagement with queries, documents, Data Hero, digital signing, and property valuations. Improvements to data feeds and adding new ones, plus a few surprises you'll hear more about when the time is right. Okay, that's it from me. If you are a client of ours, thank you for choosing us to power your firm. For those here considering SuperMate, thank you for joining today to see what all the fuss is about. Happy holidays and see you at the SMSF conference in February. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Great to see you back here, and thanks for that update. Okay, I'd now like to welcome Rhys Hopper to provide his demonstration on the interactive reports, customizable letters, and report suites. Over to you, Rhys.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome, everyone. Today, we'll explore the powerful reporting capabilities of SuperMate. Reporting is one of SuperMate's greatest strengths. It's not just because of its flexibility to customize reports and report suites, but also because of their professional and polished presentation, which sets SuperMate apart as an industry leader. In detail, what I'll be covering is interactive reports, which are reports that populate on the screen and you're able to dig into the underlying data and also make changes, refresh, see the updates afterwards. We also have customizable letters, where you can enhance your client's experience by personalizing letters using SuperMate tokens, which dynamically populate the information into the letter from SuperMate. I'll cover report suite maintenance, where I'll show you how to create and maintain multiple report suites, which then can be used to meet the unique needs of different parties and processes. And lastly, the actual generation of the report suite. So once you have set up your report suites, you can generate them through the end of year close or other avenues. So the first one I want to show off is the interactive reports. I'll navigate to SuperMate now. So bring it up. This is an interactive report. It's an expense comparison report for the future super fund. If I select the drop-down list, you can see these are the different report types that we have. These 5 are generally used to review end of year information and what you've completed. You can see here that I've produced the expense comparison report, which identifies significant differences in expenses between last year and this year. So it's a way of proactively identifying expenses that have changed in a material manner. For example, you can see here bank charges, there's a 20% difference interest rates, waters. It's actually, I have 0 recorded this year, whereas last year I have 12 bank charges, 12 interest, 4 rates, 4 water charges. And this information prompts me to go, well, why don't I have any bank charges? Why don't I have any interest expense? Why don't I have any property expenses? It might point out that I actually haven't processed an entire bank account, and then therefore haven't processed the property expenses and the interest and the bank charges that relate to that bank account. We do include on the screen the number of transactions. So you can see here with the accounting fees, there is a 14% difference. It's a lot more. Well, it's a bit more than last year, but I can see that there was 14 transactions last year and 12 this year. So looking at that information, I could probably assume that for some reason in the prior year they might have paid a catch-up of a couple of months worth of accounting fees. Another report that we have is the trial balance. Now I've generated the trial balance for the 2025 financial year, which is not closed. So I'll get a warning here to say some of these figures some of these figures don't include market movements or current year expenses, tax expenses. So for example, ANZ or Bank of Queensland, this figure here will be the GL balance, not the market value. And the great thing about interactive reports is that we have this view transactions button. So if you are looking at this and you're going, hang on, there's a significant difference here. I want to see what these transactions are made up of. When I select view transactions, it will open up the transaction screen so I can see that transaction. I can edit the transaction, make notes, review related. I can also open up the date range so I can see prior year transactions, and that might give me an indication of why I want to compare, or review this year's transaction compared to last year. If I do make any changes, so say if I edit that transaction, when I come back to the interactive reports, and this is another benefit of the interactive reports, I can just jump in and select view, and that will regenerate the report on screen, and I can review the updated values. So the two key takeaways from interactive reports is that it does supply the data up front. You're able to dig into the data, and when you do make changes, you can quickly just refresh the report and review the changes. So it's not like when you generate a PDF and your PDF, then you have to jump back into SuperMate, make the changes, regenerate the PDF, open up the PDF. It's all in screen. It's quite easy to access. The next item I'm going to cover off is the customizable letters in SuperMate. In SuperMate, we have a bunch of letter templates that are stored in the system. You can add your own. And basically, they're just Word documents where we use letter tokens, which when the letter is generated, it replaces those letter tokens with data that's in the system. So if you have say a minute or a letter that you generally have the fund's address on it, the trustee's names, tax position, pension commencement data, you can put tokens in for that information, and then when you generate the letter, it'll return the actual fund's address and tax position. The letters, they can be run anytime, or you can include them in report suites. I'll show the report suite later and how to run them. But basically, for running any time, you can run it any time for if a client calls up and wants you to generate a minute to commence a pension or something like that, you can run at any time, or you can just automatically include it in a report suite, and the letter will get generated when you generate the report suite. We do have over 650 letter tokens currently available. So, and we have added a lot over the last couple of years. So if it's been a while since you've reviewed your letter templates, definitely jump into the letter token screen, see what letter tokens we have, so you can update your letter tokens, maybe get some ideas of how you can customize further. And we are constantly developing letter tokens. We have we have over 20 that are in the pipeline at the moment. So jumping into SuperMate, where letter templates are maintained is in the letters screen. You can see here in this screen we have the name of the letter token, a description of what it's about, the entity that it will run on, and the entity is quite important because when it decides on how many letters get generated or what level the letter gets generated on. For example, a fund level letter, it'll generate once because if you run it on the fund, it's going to generate for the once for the fund. If you have a member one, it'll generate for every single member. 4 members, 4 letters get produced. Contributions, similar, it'll get generated for the contributions for that financial year. If you run a pension one, like a pension review one, and you have 5 pensions, you'll get 5 letters. So to view the letter template, what you need to do is just find the letter template you want to modify. You can select download. This is going to download the letter template. Once it's open, you can see what's in the letter template. You can make modifications. You can see here a few attributes to do with the letter token, the letter templates, is that we have the tokens here. If you see these curly brackets with the SC full colon and then a code, that is a letter token, and that'll get replaced with information when you run the actual letter. So for example, it'll return the trustees' names. This one's an interesting one where I have create an if statement for based on what the token returns. So we do have tokens that specifically just return a yes no code or an individual corporate trustee code based on the information, and then using that code you could extrapolate different responses. So using this example, you could have, here's a, based on the fund trustee type, if it's individual, it'll return the minutes of the meeting of the fund. Whereas if it's a corporate trustee, it'll say minute of the meetings of the directors, include the corporate trustee details. Other times I've seen if statements used is, we'll say if the fund's tax position is either payable or refundable, you can use a letter token to return a code, and if it's payable, you can include a paragraph to say you have this much to pay and please pay by this date. Or if it's refundable, you can say, hey, you'll receive this refund. And that way you don't have to have multiple paragraphs within your letter token and then delete the paragraph that doesn't apply. SuperMate will automatically use those tokens to figure out which path to go down. We also have another type of letter token, and there's one here where if you do put it in a table, and we call them table tokens, if you put it in a table, it will add a row for every bit of like data set that it applies to. So for example, this one, I've created a row for each member. So return the first member. You have 5 members, you'll get 5 rows. You have 2 members, you get 2 rows. And then based on that, in the other columns, it'll return that member's contribution details. It's quite handy. Now with when it comes to adding the letter tokens, there is an add-in when you open up a letter token from a letter template from SuperMate. You will get prompted to download add-ins if you haven't already. And then once you have the add-ins open, you can just simply highlight the text that you want to replace and then find the letter token. So for this one here, I actually don't want to use trustee meeting date anymore. I want to use the date that I generate the minute. So I change it to the today date letter token. That's quite helpful for when you are setting up new letter tokens. So if there's certain letters that you are currently producing outside SuperMate, and obviously it'd be a lot more efficient if you just put into SuperMate and then grab the data out of SuperMate. Well, SuperMate grabs the data for you automatically when it populates the letter. That's quite helpful, where you can use the add-in to highlight the data that you'd normally have to manually enter, and then you find the letter token, double click, and the letter token will appear. Once you've made the changes, you simply just select save, close it down, and then select upload and find where that where you save that letter template. Okay, now I've shown you how to update or add, modify letter templates. The next step is just running it. So when you're inside a fund, you can just jump into reports, generate letter, find the letter that you want to run. So I'll run the account-based pension one, choose the document date. Now this one's important. So say if you have certain document dates, letter tokens in the letter, this document date will use it, but also this controls the effective date of when the letter is run. And where this is important is that, say if I am producing it today, and a lot of those, and if you have any letter tokens that are financial year specific, so for example, account-based pension, you could have pension minimum tokens. So if I put this document date in to be today's date, it's going to return the pension minimums, etc., for the 2025 financial year. But if I go change it back to the 30th of June 2024, it'll provide all the pension minimums, etc., for the 2024 financial year. Now you can just select generate. If it is a member one, you do get this option where you can go and choose which member you want to run it on. Yeah, that's it's basically just generating a letter. Obviously, letters get created and included in report suites, but I'll show you that when I'm doing once I've covered off the modifying or the maintenance of report suites and the generating of report suites. Before I move on from modifying letters and letter templates, I'll point out some of the cool letter tokens we have produced in the last couple months. So we have the trustee letter token, which returns either all the individual trustee names or a corporate trustee name. So you no longer need to use an if statement if you want to do individual trustees versus corporate trustee name. We have pensions including terminated So this one will basically, before this one we had a pension table that only included active pension members, and you could use that to generate it. As of today, this is the active pension members, and this is the minimums and maximums. Whereas this one, the terminated one, you could use it as if you have a minute to sign off that this was the pensions paid in the prior financial year, and if a pension was paid out in that financial year, the previous letter tokens wouldn't include it. Whereas this one, you can now have a table that includes terminated pensions that were terminated that year and their minimum and maximums. We have the net min pensions for this year and next year. These ones are quite good, where I mentioned in the previous one where you had a table and it had all the minimums and it was split per member. This one is just one figure for all members. So you can just include a sentence somewhere and say, please withdraw this amount, say 70 grand as pension payments for the year for all, cover off all members' pension payments. Property title reference, I showed off in the last webinar how to, well, when creating a property, you can put the property title reference in now. This one is handy for when you have, say, a property declaration minute that you need signed off. Now you can include the property title reference, which we've found is something that auditors like on the resolution. Debtor and account balances, these letter tokens, these can be listed for, like, say, in the end of year cover letter, where you can list all the different debtors and how much they are, or how much creditors they are and how much they are, and just make sure that those debtors or creditors get settled in the next year, so you don't have any compliance issues where you have debtors or creditors that are outstanding for multiple years. And lastly, the fund investment strategy one. So you can create obviously we have the investment strategy report that we do generate, but you can also, just if you want to min it up, hey, I'm changing the asset allocation in the investment strategy, here's the min-max benchmarks, you can now do it. A special shout out to a couple of letter tokens that are coming that relate to the activity statements. So we're about to release some letter tokens that relate to activity statements that are being lodged through SuperMate, where if you want to create a simplified letter to say, hey, this is the annual activity statement, BAS, this is the amount that needs to be paid, etc. This is when it's due. Those letter tokens will be in there shortly. The next item I'm going to cover off is report suite maintenance. As mentioned before, you can configure a bunch of reports together in a report suite and you can create a large, or you can create multiple of them for different scenarios. And when you generate that report suite, it'll automatically group the reports in the order you want and the actual reports that you do want. The report suites, they don't just contain reports. You can add letters and you can add document slots. I'll be showing off the document slots later, though just for now, the document slots, they're like a placeholder, and you can put these document slots in, and then if you have documents that don't get generated by SuperMate that you want to include in the report suite, say for example actuarial certificates, audit reports, in your own invoices that get generated from a different invoicing system, you can add those invoices to the report suite and then stitch the report suite together. I'm going to point out that we do have this conditional inclusions, which will be coming in the next few months, where in the report suite you can also say only include this letter or report under these conditions. and where that can be applicable is, say, for a trustee type. Say if there's certain asset resolutions that you only want to include if there's a corporate trustee, you can do it, or if you have multiple auditors and say ASF would like a certain document, you could say include this document if it's ASF, but if it's another auditor, include this document. Similar if you have the relationship type based on ASIC agents, or within your firm you have different tax agents that want different things, or advisors that you're dealing with. You could say, okay, include this letter if it's this advisor, include this letter if it's this advisor. Based on attributes, so if it's a QROP fund, you can include a resolution based on QROPs, or if you hold third-party direct debit authority, you can include a certain letter, but if you don't, include a different letter. Okay, I'm going to jump into SuperMate now to show off how to maintain report suites. Report suites are maintained in the report suite screen. Here's a list of all the different report suites within the site. The default one, that's the one that will get chosen when you run a trial close. Active is obviously active. I'm going to select edit on this report suite, and this is the name, and it says default. This is where you can add reports. So if I select the drop down and I want to add a certain report, say example, I notice this one's missing the cover letter, I can add the end of year cover letter. By selecting it, it's added the letter to the bottom of the report suite. Then I can drag it up to where I want it to sit. So I want the end of year cover letter to sit at the top. So this is very beneficial where you can add the reports and then you can put them in the order that you want. We also have this, so it's a bit like the conditional inclusion, but when you add letters of certain types, you can choose when they get generated. So for example, a benefit payment, if I have a letter that I want to run for every lump sum that happened during the financial year, I can do it. Or if I have one that a lump sum minute or letter for accumulation versus pension, so if there's different wording based on whether it got taken out from accumulation or pension, I can select those options. Commutations back to accumulation. For pension type letters, you can either say for all active ones, or just ones that commenced, or ones that move from TRIS to TRIS and retirement. And for account type letters, if it's a property one, you can choose whether it is whether it's a property held at effective date or ones that are held during the year. So you can have ones that, okay, well, this is the resolution held at 30th June, or ones that, say, if you just held the property during the year and you want to generate any time during the year. You also got the parameters down the bottom here, so if you want to modify any parameters, you can. And then simply just select save, and that's how you modify the report suites. Once you've set up the report suites, the next step is obviously generating the report suites. I'm going to jump back into SuperMate so I can show you all the different places where you can generate report suites. The first place is if you haven't locked off the period yet, you can run a trial close report as part of the period close. If you have locked off the financial year, so 2024 has been locked off, when I jump into the audit and signing screen, I can see all of my different report suites that have been generated as part of the close. And this is one of the things I was mentioning before, where you can create multiple report suites for different purposes. Is if you set a report suite to be produced as part of the final close, all these report suites get generated at the same time, and they can all have different purposes. So, for example, this final close one I can use to, as an accountant, I can use this for, I've done the close, I want to review all the information in that close. I can also use it for internal review. I can have a set that goes to the auditor. I can have another set that goes to the client, and you can set it up if you have a certain set of reports that goes to the client pre-audit versus post-audit. You can set up those kind of report suites too, and then you can also have a report suite set up where once everything's signed off and lodged, you can add those signed minutes and signed annual return back, store it into SuperMate, and then you can stitch it all together in, say, like an end of year reports pack, stitch it all together, and then send that to the client. Now with this, with this final close, you can see I've already created one because the view button's there. I can select view to see the document, and then I can, if I want, I can download it. Alternatively, if I want to create one, I can select create to recreate it if there's some changes I've made to the report suite. We've also recently added this preview option to report suites. And what's happened is when, at the time of doing the final close, the reports all get generated. You get the list of all the different reports here. And you can see from the statuses that some are ready, some are pending, and some are not applicable. Now, the differences between those statuses is if it's ready, the document or the report or the letters in the system, ready to be included in the report suite. If it's not applicable, it just means that that report didn't get generated because it doesn't apply to the fund. So SuperMate's smart enough to go, okay, you want this personal contribution deduction notice report in the end of year pack, but this fund didn't have any personal contributions, so therefore I'm not going to generate that report. The pending ones relate to documents, and I mentioned before about about the concept of document slots. It's a placeholder for being able to drop a document into this report suite, and then it'll all get stitched together. Looking at this example, actuarial certificates, they get generated by an actuarial provider. If you do the actuarial request through SuperMate, the certificate will be in the system, and you can just select pre-fill from DMS, which will grab the document from the DMS. That goes with any other document types, document slots that you have in the report suite. If that document is stored in the document section and is attached to that financial year, it'll pick it up automatically. But for ones where you don't have it stored in the document, you can just simply select upload. So for example, if this management and administration expense one was for invoices, I can just grab the invoice, and now it's ready to be stitched together. Another benefit of this preview section is if there was a certain report I did want to look at, so I don't want to open up the entire set of reports, I can just select view and then it'll download. Once it's ready to get stitched together, you can simply just select create, and then it goes off and it starts creating the report back, stitching everything together. Other places where the report pack or report suite gets generated is the transactions period updates. So say if I want to run say like a trial close on a certain date. So if I want to run one today, so I can get an updated member balance, I can just come here, select update. It's going to start generating the reports. When it's ready, it'll appear here. and also appear in the My Jobs section. The other place where you can generate report suites is in the Generate Report Suite screen. And this one here, say if I want to generate a report suite for a certain period, portfolio investment returns for the last quarter, I can select the report suite, choose the range, update any parameters that I might want for the reports, and then I select generate. And that's going to go off and it's going to start generating the reports. Now, if I want to get an update on the job, I can just select the notifications one icon and select My Jobs. You will also get a toast notification to say when it is finished, but I can also just check how the job's progressing by going into the My Jobs section. And you can see here that all the different report suites have been generated, and I can jump here and go view attachments and view the report suite. While I'm here, I should point out, and I haven't gone into it as part of this webinar, but you do have the ability to add your logo, add branding. You can have multiple brands for report suites. So say if you have like a Super Concepts brand, but then you also white label for another company, or do it on another client's behalf, you can brand it. Say if you had a bunch of advisors and they want it branded with their logos on it, you can set up multiple brands, assign a brand to a fund, and then that branding will appear. You can choose a different color scheme for the title of reports and for any graphic. So this is obviously in Super Concepts colors, but you could change it up to be yellow, black, whatever you want it to be. Thanks everyone for coming to the webinar. As a recap, we covered interactive reports, which are reports on screen reports that allow you to deep dive into the information that's displayed and change data and quickly refresh a screen, saving you have to rerun PDFs all the time. We have customizable letters, i.e. letter templates with letter tokens in it. We allow you to maintain your own report suites, a group of reports, documents, letters that can be stitched together automatically for you. And I went through how to generate those report suites. Thanks for your time today. I will pass it back to Peter.
Thank you, Reece, for that informative demonstration, which I trust you all found useful. Now, apologies, we had a bit of technical issues when we'd run the first poll and we were unable to record all the responses. So if we're just going to relaunch it and get you to respond again, that'll be very useful. Again, and this is for the Desktop Classic users, if you'd like a comprehensive web demonstration for our customer success team. Okay. Going through that. Cool. So thank you for that. I just want to remind you that there is a help portal available in SuperMate that's able to be accessed by clicking the question mark in the top right of your screen in SuperMate and then selecting the help portal to find answers to frequently asked questions, or even just to explore the capabilities into web. So you've heard from Craig with an update on compliance. Andy has provided a review on the big improvements to SuperMate for this year with what we have on the slate for next year. And Reece has provided a demonstration on the interactive reports, report suites, and customizable letters in SuperMate. For those that are not already using new SuperMate, I'm sure you're thinking that this is pretty good and is comprehensive, but I bet it costs quite a bit. You may be surprised to know that the basic subscription starts at $11 per fund per month plus GST, which gives you access to the Macquarie Bank data feed, the broker data feeds, registry reconciliations with Computershare, link market services and boardroom, Data Hero to read bank statements and create bank transactions from them, property worksheets and standard letter templates, which all reduce the manual intervention and hence the time needed to provide outstanding service to your clients. Not only that, but for just an additional $4.75 a month, you can get all of this as well as data feeds from over 100 other banks and financial services institutions. In addition, once you subscribe to SuperMate, you become a part of the Super Concepts family and as such have access to their SMSF education services provided by Craig Stone, who you've heard from earlier. If you need any further information or would like to investigate how we can make your life and the life of your SMSF clients easier, please contact me via the details on the screen. So now it's over to you. Is there anything you'd like clarification on what we've discussed? Are there any questions? So don't forget to click on the Q&A in the top of your Teams view and submit your questions. See if you've got anything that's come through, anything for Craig or for Andy. Nothing's come through. Let's give people a little bit more time if they wanted to ask a question. Right, okay, in that case, we'll give you back a little bit of time. Thank you all once again for joining. Thank you, Craig. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Reese. And don't forget, if you are interested or would like a demonstration that is more specific to the way your business operates, please get in contact and we'll reach out. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.